Today I'm going to demonstrate how the Google Calendar connectors provide FreeBusy integration with Exchange. So I have an environment here configured with the Google Calendar connectors web service and sync service. I've created a few users, Jane.gcal, which is a Windows user. She also is mail enabled, so she has an email address associated with her. I created a contact called Joe.gcal, who's just a contact user only. And I've created John.exchange, which is exclusively an Exchange user. In Google Apps, I've also created a Google Apps user for both Jane.gcal and Joe.gcal. So let's show you how a Google Apps user can see FreeBusy data from Exchange. So I'm going to log in as Joe.gcal into Google Apps. And here I can see his calendar. And I'm going to create a new event, which opens the scheduler. And I'm going to tell it to look up the Exchange user, John.exchange. What happens here is Google Calendar will send a request to the web service requesting FreeBusy data for John.exchange. The web service will go pull that FreeBusy data from Exchange and return it back to Google Apps, and thus displaying it on the screen. So let's show the reverse. Let's show how John.exchange can see FreeBusy data for Joe.gcal. So let's log in as John.exchange. Let's go to his calendar. So in the background, the Google Calendar Connector sync service has been reading the calendar of Joe.gcal and Jane.gcal and synchronizing in the FreeBusy data into the Exchange information store. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Joe.gcal and Jane.gcal to a meeting and look at their availability. So now Outlook will go query the FreeBusy store in Exchange, which has the FreeBusy mapping of the data for Joe and Jane that has been synchronized from Google Apps. So let's demonstrate if we have a new meeting for a user in Google Apps and how that is represented here on the screen. So I'm going to go back, and this is Joe.gcal, and I'm going to create a new meeting here. Test meeting. So I've created this new meeting in Google Apps for Joe.gcal. Now, in the background, the Google Calendar Connector sync service will go out on a scheduled interval, by default 15 minutes, check the calendars to see if any data has changed, and when it's changed, pull down the FreeBusy data and populate it in Exchange. For demo purposes, I'm just going to restart that service, which will invoke it to go check immediately and check for any changes. We'll give that a second to process. If I come back to the view here, I'm just going to refresh it here, and let's watch Joe.gcal. And now you can see a new appointment for FreeBusy data is showing here for Joe.gcal. Now let's demonstrate the opposite for a Google Calendar user. So in this case, I'm going to go to John.exchange's calendar here, and I'm going to create a new meeting, and we'll call this a demo of Google Calendar connectors, and that's going to be from 3 to 5 p.m. today. So I'm going to save and close that, and now I should see a demo here from 3 to 5 p.m. So now we need to go back to Google Apps. I'm logged in as Joe.gcal, and I'm going to request the FreeBusy data for John.exchange again. Oops. So I've requested the data for John.exchange. And what you'll see is now I see the FreeBusy data for him between 2 to 4 p.m. So if we go back to his calendar, we see that he already had an appointment there, and that's a test meeting that already existed, and we don't see the demo that I created. This is normal. This is a function of Outlook Web Access. Since we created the appointment in Outlook Web Access, it takes a little time for Exchange to process that message on his calendar and write the data into the FreeBusy store. So we'll have to give it a little bit of time, typically less than 5 minutes. This isn't a specific problem with Google Apps. If you're an Exchange user, you wouldn't be able to see the FreeBusy data for John.Exchange either. You have to wait for that FreeBusy data to be published. So we'll pause for just a moment and come back after a few minutes, and we'll see the data for John.Exchange and GCal. Okay, we're back. It's been a little over 4 minutes, and let's look up John.Exchange again. And now we can see the new hour of FreeBusy data for the meeting we created. If you recall, the first meeting was from 2 to 4, that was on the calendar. We created a new one from 3 to 5, so we have an overlap of 3 to 4 p.m. that still shows busy. And then we also have the new hour from 4 to 5 p.m. that shows busy. And just to confirm that view, let's look at Outlook, and we do see the same thing. We see the 2 to 4 p.m. as well as we see the meeting from 3 to 5. So this is how the Google Calendar connectors allow you to interoperate with FreeBusy data between Google Apps and Exchange, and from Exchange to Google Apps.